from Faith Forward Media, this is Healthcare Musings. I'm Dr. Hesham Hasabala. Welcome to Healthcare Musings, everybody. Happy to have you all with me. I am continuing in the series of a day in the life of especially telemedicine, because it's something that I do and that it's growing and it's going to become a huge part of critical care medicine practice in the future. This is part of the future of critical care, and there's research going on about that. And just a plug for me and my team, Dr. Eugene Ye, myself, and a whole bunch of other people at Sound are going to be presenting an abstract on the future of critical care at this year's Society of Critical Care Medicine Congress. And it's all about telemedicine and what happens when you implement telemedicine in a rural setting and the outcome improvement that you do. So be on the lookout for that. We'll see if they'll let me record anything at SCCM. But the perception on a lot of people is that, oh yeah, we're just sitting at home, we're sitting at home, we're in the office sipping coffee. It's so easy. You guys, we're being slammed at the hospital, and the teleintensivist is just enjoying life. And it's nothing of the sort. I had Dr. Eugene Ye, who is a colleague and a teleintensivist, on to give you a great glimpse of what it's like to be a telemedicine specialist. It's not sitting back and sipping coffee, right? It is a real thing, and that has its own challenges. And what I wanted to do now is to bring in another perspective of how can you best work with an on-site team and have a telecritical care program, because Sound has a lot of practices where it's hybrid, where they have both, where they have an on-site team with its own director and own leadership, and they have a telemedicine team with its own director and leadership. And so there was nobody better to discuss this than my guest today, Dr. Mirko Villanueva. He is a pulmonary critical care, sleep, and neurocritical care specialist. He's quintuple boarded. I thought I was the record with 4. Nope, he beat me. He has 5. So it's one of only 71 people out of thousands and thousands in the country. He is a wonderful physician. He is a friend. He is a colleague, and he's a telemedicine program medical director. And so it was really important for me to get his perspective of how best you can work together with an on-site team, and what's the best way to become one team rather than 2 fragmented teams. So, Dr. Villanueva, very hearty welcome to Healthcare Musings. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good morning for the introduction, Hesham. And first of all, thank you for the invitation. It is an honor to join you today. I've been watching your podcast, and you and I have talked about it in the background, and I really respect the effort that you put. The content is great. So I'm very happy to meet with you today.
No, thank you very much. It's our honor to have you on the show. And so everybody, I'll probably link my conversation with Dr. Ye in the show notes, just so they give the perspective of what it's like being a teleintensivist. It's not as easy as it seems. And now our conversation with Dr. Villanueva. So I just wanted to kind of give you a chance to tell us your journey, how you got to where you are with Sound Critical Care in the telemedicine space.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you about that. I'm from Peru. I'm originally from Peru, and I went to medical school in Peru. I moved to the United States for residency and then fellowships. And then I got a job at a small hospital in Mississippi, working as an internist, trying to get my J-1 visa waiver and a green card, which I eventually did. And then I went back to do my fellowships, and then I joined a company called Up2 Medical Group, a big group, working a community hospital, 450 beds, I believe, big ICU. And in the meanwhile, I've been through the process, I've worked in different hospitals, from 27 beds hospital, the actual hospital is 27 beds, all the way to some of the residency programs that I trained. They were like 1,000-bed hospitals, and I've seen absolutely everything. And I think that has helped me a lot, because some of the programs that we see and that we work with Sound, are rural, smaller hospitals that remind me a lot of my hospitals, back in the day in Mississippi, where there's a huge need for intensivists. As you can imagine, it is not easy to recruit to a small rural area, number one. Number two, you have an ICU that is small, that maybe has 8 to 10 bed ICU. The census may be 5 to 6. it's really hard to justify salary of an intensivist. It doesn't make sense for the hospital. It doesn't make sense for the physician either. And at the end of the day, the one who end up suffering are the patients and the community, right? Because, and I saw it in Mississippi so many times, you have patients in my clinic that end up in the ER. I was the ER doctor moonlighting, and we had to ship them out. I remember more than once, it was like a couple of married couple in the 80s, and then the closest hospital with an ICU and a big system, it's an hour and a half away. And so then the patient gets loaded in the ambulance, they get transferred to a bigger hospital, 1 hour, 1.5, 2 hours away, and then the family is in a small town. And then how do you visit your loved one, right? It's difficult for an 85-year-old lady to be driving 2 hours on the highway, weather conditions and things like that. So I always thought how nice it would be to be able to keep those patients in the community. It's a huge difference, stress level and support for the family and for the patient, number one. Number two, the hospital, they don't bleed resources transferring everybody out. They're able actually to keep the patients in the hospital, and the patients are able to get good care, locally. So I think that's where our TeleICU program has a huge impact in the community. One of the reasons why I was excited when I interviewed and when I joined Sound to really be able to work with the smaller hospitals who have ICU needs, who is difficult to recruit, and not being on the other side, right? So I do understand, a lot of people work, you go to residency in a big hospital, you do fellowship in a big hospital. So all is academic centers with neuro interventionists and a team for thrombectomy for PE and absolutely everything possible. But a lot of hospitals are not that. They don't have those resources. And you basically transferring everybody out. You're like a triage station. You get people into the IC, into the ER, either to the floor, or you need to send them out, right? And also the impact. Mainly, I remember at least 4 or 5 couples, married couples, through the years in Mississippi, that they were in the 80s and 90s, and they wanted me to keep the patient, but I just did not have the ability to keep the patient safely. We transferred 2 hours away, right? And I mean, because the wife was my patient as well, I know the problem they created for her, because she went to be with her husband, but she was 86 or something. She didn't drive. So how is she going to drive 2 hours away to see a husband, right? So I thought that is very, very, that kind of opened my eyes. And I believe that what we do is very important, is very impactful for the patient, number one, for the family, also for the hospital, and eventually for the local community. So I'm very, very excited, very proud, and very happy to work for Sound.
That's fantastic. That's a really great perspective. Before we go into kind of how the leadership of a hybrid program is different than what are our best practices, before we go into that, I want to get your perspective, because you also work telemedicine shifts like I do, like Dr. Ye and other members of our group. So what are the unique challenges that face a telecritical care specialist, which is different that's an on-site, and you've done on-site, you've done in office like I have, you've done on inside ICU like I do still. What are the particular challenges of being a teleintensivist that many people may not come to appreciate?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with probably the impact and impression that I have. I do believe, and I am convinced to my core, that you can provide the same level of care remotely via TeleICU that being on site. So I think that, I do believe that. And it sounds, when I first started, it sounds almost like a sci-fi movie, right? How am I going to do with the camera and far and all that? But in reality, is that all the data that we need is available to us to make the right medical decisions, right? So the care itself is exactly the same. I don't believe it's compromised at all. Now, it does come with some challenges. There's no doubt about it. And let me start with the patient care part itself first. Is there is some physical cues that you may not have, right? And I believe that it is first and foremost, we're treating human beings when they're suffering. So I always keep that in mind. So it is important that we show empathy, that we show that we care, and that we want the best for them. I think that that's my goal personally. that so when you're in person with somebody, there are some physical cues, some connection you can make that may be a little bit more easier perceived. For example, you can hold a patient's hand with the respect, of course, or sometimes they hug you, the patient hug you, or the family member hug you, or they can see you close and they can see how concerned you are, or you can show your empathy better, also their emotions better. Sometimes they don't translate too well to the camera. So I do think that it is important to compensate for that. On the other side is to kind of take maybe an extra 30 seconds to a minute to really emphasize and transmit what you're trying to do, how you care about them, how you feel what they're going through and the family is going through, how you want they will want the best for the patient, the family. So I think that those extra 20, 30 seconds do make an impact. And I do believe that you do connect with people. And I think that we're in an era, especially during COVID, that everybody got on FaceTime and Zoom calls and telemedicine calls and visits. So people have become familiar with this. It's not that strange to do video visits anymore, so that kind of helps a lot break that disconnect, so to speak, right? But I do believe that you're able to connect with people, if you take your time and you can express empathy. People sense that even through a camera. So that's one of the first barriers that I believe that you lose a little bit of that personal touch if you're not physically with the person. The second thing is,
I found that they're very appreciative of us being there, even by camera. Is that your experience as well?
yes, and what I think it comes back to, and I always think back to my days in Mississippi. One of the great times in my life is that when you're in the small hospital, like you really appreciate the help that you can get. I remember how many times I was working in the yard on the floor, and a patient would crash, and I would call intensivist 2 hours away. And when he picked up the phone, I was like so relieved, so happy. They were helping me with the management, arranging the transfer, right? And so I think that patients and family and nurses, they're very appreciative of that. They really appreciate what you're doing, because the alternative is the patient is not in a hospital, the patient is shipped out and lost to, to the community, right? So I do believe there is that sense of appreciation for what we do. I do notice it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. So, other than the barrier of kind of the cues, the nonverbal cues that are difficult to
Mhm.
pick up on the camera, what other challenges do you see?
Another thing that may be a little bit of a hiccup, but is easy to solve is you are dependent on, on somebody to roll you from room to room sometimes, but again, the solution for that is we in our company Sound, we are very clear workflows with the schedules. So, we set 8 a.m. and that is important to be punctual, and 8 a.m. means 8 a.m. So everybody's waiting for you at 8. It's not 7:45 because nobody's there, or 8:15 because people are gone. So as long as you stick to a schedule, and there's an expectation that we meet at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever, it works okay. Obviously, if you want to see somebody and there is nobody available to roll you in, what I do is I call the ICU on over the phone, say, hey guys, can you please come to the camera and get me to this room, right? So you kind of work around it. But that's one of the things that is also challenging, that normally you were just walking at your own pace, at your own time from room to room. Now you kind of need somebody to roll you, move you through the ICU. It's a minor thing. It's a minor thing. And that with regards to patient care. Now, one of the biggest challenges, I think, is really to be able to keep up with all the different things that you need to do behind the scenes. And what I mean by that, I mean two big things. One is that you need to be credentialed in every state that you practice, right? So you're gonna have, I don't know how many, 10, 20 medical licenses, and then they expire. Let's say you have 24 medical licenses and they expire every 2. You need to be renewed every 2 years. That means that pretty much every month you need to renew a medical license, right? So it's an ongoing process. In a regular practice, I'm in California. I only have one medical license, one state, and then you renew it every 2 years. So it's not a big deal. But to be doing that every single month for different states and try to keep up with that, and there's always, it's not as simple as just making a payment, because you need to click, right? There are questions that need to be answered, and I mean, which me, I understand that the state boards are doing their job. I'm not blaming them for that, right? And you need to take your time and answer correctly and go through the things. And sometimes you need to double check a date. So it takes some work to do it 24 times or 12 times a year, right? So that with regards to the medical license. Parallel to that is also being able to maintain a credentialing and privileges at a hospital, right? And again, it's very, very similar. If you only work at one place, local place, you only have one medical license at one hospital that you work on. So it's relatively simple to do every couple of years, but you're working in or credentialing 10, 20 hospitals, then it becomes, interesting because you're always catching up. There's always something pending, the privileges, and then you need to fax the CME form 20 times and the flu form and the questions. And so it becomes a significant amount of extra work. We have a very good team at Sound who really help us as much as they can help us, and I really appreciate it. With the credentialing part and with the privileging in hospitals part, and they do the best that they can do up to the point where they ask you specific questions, right? Have you ever been arrested? Have you ever, had a felony? Have you ever do this? Do you swear that you are not doing drugs? So no, they cannot answer that for you, right? So you need to do it yourself. So there is an amount of work that we do. Now, thank God we have our team who take care of the majority of the work, right? But in spite of their work, it implies a significant amount of work on the back end, right, for us. And it's constant. I think one of the things that is constant dripping of things that we need to fill out and fax and sign online and applications to fill out. That's one of the challenges. Now, it also comes with the profession, with the work that we do, that we chose. So I particularly accepted my fate, so to speak, or accepted that it's part of the job, and I don't think much of it. At the beginning, you cannot, may want to be like, why again? But after a while, you understand what that is the way it is, right? I mean, some people drive, Los Angeles for work, 50 minutes to an hour in traffic and then back and forth. And they're not saying, well, they don't need to drive. It's just something just are, right? So I think once you accept that is part of the work description, it just doesn't really become a big issue.
Yeah. And the other stressful thing for me is when your EMR access doesn't work, and you're now, you need to see a patient, and they've either changed their passport requirements, or if they've disabled your account because you didn't log in long enough, or something's going on, and now the hospital's calling you. I mean, if someone's crashing, you can always forget the EMR. You can just go on camera and take care of it, and then just deal with it later. At the same time, I've always found that super stressful when I can't get into the EMR, and now I have to wait for IT to come, and if they can fix it, great. And sometimes they can't, or they have to call your manager or something like that. I don't know. Have you had that kind of difficulty as well?
That is an excellent point. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another challenge is to be able to keep up with so many logins and passwords,
Yeah.
for so many hospitals for remote medical record access. So that in itself is a challenge because the password expires every so months, and you need to keep, how many times can you change a password,
I've run out of passwords. I've run out. I'm now going into other languages. I don't have any more. I am starting to transliterate foreign languages. I have no other options.
Exactly. So that is correct. And then what you mentioned, it is a reality. Sometimes you think that everything was good to go, and that morning, like, you can't get in for whatever reason. The medical record system is down, Citrix is down, the password expire. You made a mistake with the cap, with caps, and now you're locked out. The password is. I mean, there are so many variables, and that can be stressful because if it's Monday to Friday 8 to 5, chances are you get that taken care of. But if it's on a Saturday night, then it can become challenging for sure to try to have access all the time and remember to change your password before it expires for so many places. Another thing in the same part that you mentioned, it just made me think, is also the pending medical records can also be challenging because
Yes, absolutely.
work a shift and then you give one verbal order, and they enter it for you because you were busy or whatever, something like a potassium replacement or something like that. And then a month later that you get a letter about to suspend you because you have pending medical records. And when I think pending medical records, I think, oh, did I forget a consult, like a progress note? And it's like, yeah, one verbal order. But again, I understand that the medical records office, they're doing their job. It is not their fault. It's my fault that I didn't sign my order, right? But that can also be a challenge to try to remember to sign everything, make sure everything is taken care of when you're covering in total, right? Not in one shift, but in your group of hospital, you're covering 10, 15 hospital, right? To keep up of every single medical record signature can be also a challenge. I do believe there are some ways of working with that, but we can talk about it if you want to, but I do believe there are some ways to kind of work around that, right?
Yeah,
To make,
yeah. It's one thing, it's one thing if, you remember, it's another thing when they put orders under your name without you knowing, and they don't tell you, and you haven't worked in several days. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know is you're being suspended. Well, but
yeah,
I didn't work that day. Why are there orders under my name on that day? It's just the path of least resistance, right? Or they
yeah,
didn't change your name. You were attending for that day, but then you went off service and they didn't change the name, right?
yeah.
They didn't change the attending, so it all goes under your name. And then, unbeknownst to me, I have 3 orders, 4 orders, 5 orders, sometimes 25 orders
Mhm.
um, under my name, and now I'm being suspended because I didn't finish my medical records. Well, I never did them in the first place. I think those are. Thank you. That's great perspective. I just wanted to give the audience that it's not this thing we're sitting down and just enjoying. It can be very stressful, and we're taking care of real. Just like you said, we're taking care of real patients. We are caring for critically ill people, just on a different scale. And so that comes with its own challenges. It's not as simple and easy as it seems. Changing gears, shifting gears. You're a telemedicine leader, and what's your perspective is unique is that you work in multiple places where there's an on-site team and you that leads the tele team, right? So what
Mhm.
are the challenges of how, because I know there are places where even if it's the same group, the on-site team can perceive the tele team in a negative way, right? Or a different way, or they don't see them as part of the group, right? It's one thing if I'm signing out to you in person, you're sitting at the desk next to me in front of the computer, I'm showing you stuff, I can pull up a lab, I can pull up an x-ray, I'm writing it down, I'm giving you written sign out, we're right there. People see us together, right? And then I leave and you stay, or you leave and I stay, right? It's different when where the on-site team is signing out to this remote cloud doctor, right? Doc in the box, right? And that can be a challenge be to have cohesiveness as one group, right? So what are and this is talking about it's even more challenging when you have the on-site team is not your group, right? You're just covering overnight for another group where really we're separate, completely separate, right? And we have no say or no kind of connection with the on-site team. And there are practices we have like that as well. I lead one of those, and that comes with its own challenges. But how can you? What is it that we can do to really make it one group and as seamless as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question that uh, regarding a real situation. We have several programs in which we have an on-site team, either sound or not sound, and then the TeleICU team covers at nights usually, right? Or we work together side by side in a few programs, and the goal that we have, in sound is that it doesn't matter. It's a continuous of care. I mean, the hospitals don't close on weekends and nights. It's 24/7. ICU is always open, and the level of care should be exactly the same. So that's our goal, and it should be a very seamless transition with everything work smooth. That's what we want to achieve. Now, I believe it has to do a lot with building relationships. Maybe that's the most important thing. Like most things in life, you have a good relationship with your partner who is the on-site medical director. Things usually go really well because you're on the same page. There is mutual respect and it's a partnership. And then the leader kind of that drives down to the rest of the team, right? So the ICU on-site medical director respect the ICU team, the TeleICU team, they work together, they understand the value that we provide, right? They pass that on to the other intensivists and to the nursing staff and everybody else, right? At the same time, if that person who is the one we have more contact with, has their own biases about TeleICU, and, that can also drip down to the rest of the team. So I think it's probably very important to have a good relationship during the implementation and throughout the program going on, to really connect with the on-site medical director and with the ICU nursing medical director. I think they are key. I believe that they are key to really the success of the program. Now, it is also important, I think, that we must establish a relationship with the on-site team, because we are some, random person. I don't know where they are. I don't get to see them in the cafeteria and the doctor lounge, have a cup of coffee. We don't get to sit at our nursing station and talk about the football game or whatever it may be, right? That kind of builds that partnership feeling of, well, one time a patient called it and I went to the room to help you. And then a month later, one of your patients in trouble and I help it with another line. So that kind of builds that relationship. So I think, again, it is important to make the extra effort for our teleintensivists. I can tell you that some of the programs that I work on, which you are the director, I have a good relationship with one of the guys. I never met him in my life. We text back and forth and, we talk on the phone. Hey, Mirko, how you doing? Hey, Hindi, I'm doing wonderful. How about you? I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice weekend. How's your Christmas? Right. So that extra minute today over 6 months, will you actually become, friend with that person to an extent, right? There is a level of not only just a transaction. This is my sign out. This is my patient's buy, and vice versa. It becomes an issue of sharing experiences and sharing patient, and then it becomes more like an actual close relationship. So I think it is achievable. It takes again, a little bit extra effort, because you need to really mean to do it. It's not spontaneous, because you're remote. The easy thing is to send a text or say hi and bye, and then be kind of like, hide yourself. But I do believe it's possible to develop good relationships again with everybody, but it takes the effort of for example, for the teleintensivist, which I always do. Same thing that I mentioned at the beginning with the patients. The first minute or two of the conversation when I first get in the morning is I talk to the nurse who, got the video in, and the charge nurse, right? And you talk about, how things are going, how the census is going, any ICU patients that are sicker. You develop some type of rapport and conversation and dynamics with them. And eventually, if there is consistency, then you can develop a genuine relationship. I can tell you, one of the hospitals that I do nights, I've never been to one of your hospitals in Illinois. I know that the ICU charge nurse, and we're always like smiling and talking, and especially in the ICU, it's an interesting place because patients are sick and patients are tough, and situations can be really, really difficult. So I think a good way of bonding with people is when you have a very difficult patient, they're able to pull through the night or through the day with RT and with the nurse and with pharmacy, right? And the charge nurse and the stress of the night or the day shift in one patient builds a bond. I think that is important, right? You kind of suffer together, go to war together, and you come out on the other end by next week and next month. That kind of creates a bond that you can definitely feel it. I can tell you, kind of thinking, there is several hospitals that I'm glad to just work because I get to see them and I get to talk to them, and they're like, hey, Dr. Villanueva, it's you tonight. Good to see you. And you can tell that they really have respect for what we do, right? So I think it is a matter of number one, to do a good job, to take it seriously and really show the value that we provide with our expertise and the things that we do. Number two, for the teleintensivist to make the extra effort, to try to, be less transactional and really try to build a relationship. And over time, I do think that it is possible to do that and to make it one big group.
That's very important. Those are really good. Those are really good tips. And so, just to kind of circle back, it's just important that you as the tele leadership have a good relationship with the with the on-site leadership. And I'm sure you're on there, and I think it's important for if there are regular operations calls for the program that the teleintensivists, are included in those operations calls, right? That way, we're really seen as part of the group from the get-go. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that we do is when we launch a program, we have a site visit, and I try to go to the site visit myself because it makes a big difference to visit the hospital. And then you understand where is the ER, what is the ICU, how far away is it from here, the elevator, the distribution of the ICU beds, what resources they have, what challenges they have. Get to know people in person. So the next time you meet them, it's like somebody who you met a week ago in person, right? Who you had lunch with. So
Yeah.
that's a stage. It's important for us to go and visit the sites at some point to develop that
And then, do you
personal.
think regular site visits after the fact are important? I think they are. I think ongoing physical presence. That's what I try to do as a leader for my tele and on-site program, just to maintain that that connection that you have with the on-site team, and I think it's made a huge difference when I come on site and go all the way to the hospital, even if it's a little bit farther away. It means a lot to the on-site team that we care. We're not just some suit somewhere, that we're actual real human beings that and that the program matters to us, right?
Absolutely. That is, yes. So I think that definitely will have a positive impact to not only go once for the implementation, but also have regular visits. I don't know what the cadence would be every year or every 6 months or something like that
Mhm.
to to be present physically with them, right? So that is absolutely, that is important. Now, with regards to the meetings that we have a lot of meetings. Initially, as you can imagine, when we first start a program, we are meeting sometimes weekly,
Yeah.
to try things and, and a modified workflow based on the actual experience, the feedback that we get. As time goes by, you kind of spread out to every 2 weeks, and then maybe you have your cadence once a month. You know, uh, Now in addition to that, it is important to be engaged, and what that means is that it is a responsibility as a medical director to be available, and for the either the charge nurse or the ICU nursing director and the on-site direct medical director to know that if any issue comes or happens, that they can text you or call you or send you an email depending on the urgency, right, of the issue, and that we will take it seriously. It is important. It is patient care, number one. Number two is the professionalism that we need to provide, and we're representing not just ourselves but also sound, right? So it is
Right.
important to address things in a serious, respectful manner. So, and you're also a director. You know how it is. Sometimes you get an email a day with a complaint or a comment, and it needs to be addressed. They need to be addressed, and I think that it is important to address those right away. I think that creates trust, and not to be dismissive, because then people say, "Why am I going to tell him?" He just ignores me, doesn't do anything about it, right? So really, really take action is super important, and then close the loop, right? Hey, this is what happened. Thank you for letting me know. I talked to this provider or this doctor. This is the solution that we have. Let me know, right? I think that is super, super important. And we're always in communication constant, right? The cadence of the meetings. Sometimes one of the programs that I have right now, we're meeting on average probably twice a week. You can imagine, and some programs maybe once a month and as needed, right? But
Yeah.
we're all working, yeah, very closely. Yes, and that is very, very important, because you start understanding the culture of each hospital, and that is the only way to really know how to change your workflows, and everything else to accommodate for that hospital needs. As you can imagine, it's different to work in a bigger hospital that has a residency program, a fellowship program, and everything else that we do have, and a rural hospital where there is only intensivists with no residents, no interns, and no fellows. At the ICU, maybe 10 beds versus a 30, 40 bed ICU,
Right.
right? So it is important to really learn the hospital and understand the culture. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are fantastic points. And so, I mean, for those the audience that have been listening for the last 35 minutes or so, you can see why I as a director, he's one of my partners, and I only get compliments about Dr. Villanueva and the job that he does and the things that he does. And I'm learning. He and I are both directors, and I still learn from him and his best practices. And when we're on meetings together, he'll make a comment, and his comments are so salient and so thoughtful, he really thinks about the things, and he comes up with really great solutions. And he's just really a gem of a person, an excellent physician, a wonderful leader. And just to want to just to add to the conversation, to show the audience and the world that being a teleintensivist is just not this easy job. It's a challenging thing, especially when you're at scale like we are, and you are able to deliver safe care, and it's not as easy as it seems. And there's a lot of intentional work that goes in to be able to make sure that a hybrid program really functions seamlessly as one group. And again, it has to be intentional. And so, Dr. Villanueva, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for all that you do. It's great to have you. Great to be your friend. Great to be a colleague. And hopefully we'll see each other in person very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Heshan, for the invitation. Again, congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Take care, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.